Have you ever had a dream so vivid that when you woke up you had the strangest feeling that it was more than just a dream, as if an invisible force was trying to warn you about something? Maybe an unfamiliar voice, a place you've never seen before but that seemed familiar, or even a silent presence watching from a distance. What if I told you that this dream, the one that seemed just strange, could have been a divine warning, a sign, a call, a whisper from heaven trying to protect you or even save your life? Today, you will delve into real, exciting, and, why not say, mysterious stories. Stories from ordinary people, like you and me, who lived moments marked by spiritual signs, intense dreams and situations where everything seemed lost, until something unbelievable happened, something invisible, but very present. Something that they only understood later, the silent intervention of an angel. What you're about to discover now may surprise you, and even remind you of something you've experienced before, but couldn't explain. Remember that day when you changed your route at the last minute without knowing why, and then discovered that you'd escaped an accident? Or that strange feeling in your chest, that recurring dream that seemed like a warning, but that you ignored? Well, yes. Sometimes divine signs appear in the most subtle forms, and angels, those celestial creatures that many imagine as legends, act without being seen, and they don't need wings or bright lights to do it. Some people believe that angels are just symbols. Others feel with all certainty in their hearts that they were saved by them. But between skepticism and faith, there is a mysterious territory, where spirituality and reality intersect, and that is exactly where these stories happen. Dreams that seemed random, but revealed details that changed destinies, voices that appeared in the middle of the night, warning of imminent dangers, premonitions that no one could explain until everything made sense. What about you? Have you ever experienced this? Have you ever felt like there was something or someone silently guiding you? Leave a comment if you want to share. Often telling what we feel is the first step to understanding what happened to us. Stay with me until the end, because in the next few minutes you will understand how angels manifest themselves in our daily lives, even if we don't realize it. We will talk about spirituality, intuition, prophetic dreams, and those small detours along the way that in fact are great deliverances. And maybe, just maybe, you'll realize that what you experienced that night, in that vivid dream, wasn't a figment of your imagination. It was a sign, and it all starts with a story. It was a sign, and when you start to connect the dots, that strange dream, the feeling that you're being watched, the intuition that kept telling you not to move forward, everything seems to take on new meaning. Sometimes it's these small details that reveal the silent presence of something much bigger than we can see. An angel, perhaps, a guardian who acts silently, but with purpose. And when we realize this, the way we look at the world changes completely. If this topic resonates with you, if you've ever felt like you weren't alone in a difficult situation, or if you've ever had a dream that seemed like a message from heaven, write it down in the comments. Your story, your feelings, could touch the heart of someone else who's watching right now and going through something similar. And it could even be the confirmation someone needed to believe that the signs exist. By the way, if this topic touched you in any way, leave a like on the video. It's a simple gesture, but it shows that this content matters and helps it reach more people who also need to hear it. And if you want to continue exploring these stories, delve deeper into the mysteries of spirituality, better understand divine signs, the interventions of angels, and everything that exists in this invisible but very present world, subscribe to the channel right now. Your presence here is what gives meaning to all of this. It is because of you that we continue to bring you this content with so much love, care, and truth. Here, we build together a space of connection, of faith, of awakening. And it's just the beginning, because what comes next will make you see the signs with different eyes. This is the story of Lara, a woman like so many others. She woke up early, took the same bus every day, led an organized life with an almost predictable routine. But one seemingly ordinary night, everything changed. A dream came to her, one of those that leaves your heart racing as if your body was still there inside the scene. In the dream, Lara was walking down a dirt road, surrounded by dark trees. In the distance, she saw a simple house with closed windows and a half-open door. The feeling was of urgency, but also of fear. From inside the house, a voice whispered her name. And the strangest thing, Lara recognized that voice but couldn't associate it with anyone. She woke up with a start, her breath held and a bitter taste in her mouth. The clock read 3:13 in the morning. Just a nightmare, she thought, trying to go back to sleep. But what she didn't know was that that moment would mark the beginning of a silent, almost invisible, but profound transformation. In the following days, the dream kept reappearing. A detail here and there would change, but the scene was the same. The house, the voice, the chill down her spine. Until one rainy morning, when Lara was getting ready to leave home for work, something bothered her. An uneasiness, an unexplained restlessness. For some reason, she felt she shouldn't follow her usual route. She took another bus, diverted the route. And hours later, she found out on TV, the vehicle she was traveling in had been involved in a serious accident. Lives lost, injured, tragedy. But not her. Lara was safe. At that moment, the dream stopped being just a dream. It stopped being strange. It became sacred. Lara's story echoes so many others that often go unnoticed, because not everyone understands the behind-the-scenes of certain events, the truth hidden behind situations that seem trivial. How many times do we ignore an intuition? A hunch? A delay that irritates us, but that could be the very thing that saves us? This is where the mystery of spiritual interventions comes in. And when we talk about angels, we are not necessarily talking about figures with wings and robes. Often they are energies, presences, inner voices, subtle signs. They do not need to show themselves to act. They are like invisible guardians who act behind the scenes in our lives, diverting paths, awakening alerts, guiding decisions. Have you ever stopped to think about how many times a mistake along the way was actually a deliverance? Or how many seemingly small decisions changed the course of everything? It is in these moments that the universe, God, or celestial forces, like angels, touch us gently. They don't shout, they whisper. And it's up to us to listen. Lara only understood the magnitude of what she had experienced when she started talking about it. It was by listening to other stories that she understood that she was not alone, that this experience was part of something bigger, a journey of awakening. And sometimes that is what we lack, recognizing that what we feel, even if it cannot be explained in words, is real, and it transforms. Spirituality is not about ready-made answers. It is about being present, being attentive, because the signs are everywhere, in dreams, in coincidences, in unlikely encounters, in unexpected delays. And when we start to see with more sensitivity, we realize that nothing is so random. There is purpose. There is direction. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject, but first tell me one thing. Does this make sense to you? Have you ever experienced something similar or felt that you were being protected without really understanding why? Comment below. I'm on this. Journey 2, because what happened to Lara is not an isolated case. On the contrary, it is as if she had experienced something that is recorded in different ways in different cultures, sacred books and personal accounts spread throughout the world. And there is a point where all of this meets: dreams. Since ancient times, dreams have been seen as windows to another dimension, a bridge between the visible and the invisible. Kings have made crucial decisions based on a dream. Prophets have received detailed instructions while asleep. Even warring generals like Alexander sought meaning in night visions before going into battle. And this isn't just symbolic. There's a hidden truth behind these events. Dreams have power. They do not follow the logic of our daily lives. They are often chaotic, disconnected, and overly symbolic. But that is precisely where spiritual language lies. Because the spiritual world does not speak with clear and direct words. It speaks with sensations, images, and intuitions. And dreams are a clean channel, where our conscious mind, chats with all its filters, rationalizations, and defenses, falls asleep, making room for something more subtle to manifest. The question is, how to differentiate a dream from a real sign? This question does not have a mathematical answer, but there is something that always appears when a dream carries a deeper meaning. It remains. While many dreams disappear minutes after we wake up, dreams that are signs insist on staying. They return to memory throughout the day, provoking a strange sensation, as if something was pending, something that needs to be understood. Sometimes they repeat themselves. Other times, they are accompanied by such intense emotion that it seems as if they were experienced in the real world. Another important point is the symbolic content. Dreams about houses, doors, paths, stairs, lights, voices, all of these can carry hidden messages, depending on how they appear and how you feel in the scene. Therefore, it is not just a matter of rationally analyzing what you dreamed, but of feeling the impact it had on you. Sometimes a dream comes as a subtle warning. Other times, it is like a real push from the universe, and this is where sensitivity comes in. Because signs don't scream, they whisper, and most people are so noisy inside that they don't listen, but those who learn to quiet down a little, who start paying attention to the details, who develop a new mindset, more intuitive, more open, can perceive these invisible nudges that come in the night. There are people who dream about situations before they happen. They dream about someone from the past, and the next day they receive news, or they dream about a crossroads, and days later they are faced with a difficult choice. Coincidence? Maybe. But what changes everything is the way you see these events. Because when you start to perceive the behind the scenes of reality, nothing seems random anymore, and it's not about having a ready-made explanation. It's about developing the perspective of someone who lives awake. Because most people sleep even when they're awake. They go through their days without noticing the signs, the connections, the details that make all the difference. But when you allow yourself to see more deeply, when you understand that there's a purpose in every little thing, your journey transforms. Every dream becomes an opportunity to listen. Every sensation a warning. Every image a key. There is a kind of silence that speaks, and dreams belong to this territory. They touch a layer of the soul that wakefulness often cannot reach. So don't underestimate what you feel during a dream. Don't dismiss the discomfort, the intuition, the insistent memory. This may be more than an echo of the mind. It may be a calling. This call, if ignored, may seem just strange. But if heard, it can change everything. Lara was not sensitive, had no mediumistic experiences, and had no readings about spirituality. But that dream was the beginning of a new connection with her own life. And that is what happens when we stop resisting what we feel and start trusting what we intuit. Because every calling carries a decision, and every decision has an impact. Comment here. That makes sense to me, because when we talk about dreams, signs, and warnings, we inevitably enter a mysterious but deeply real territory, that of the presences that accompany us, angels, and I'm not talking about the romanticized image that we've been sold so many times, winged beings with harps and white robes hovering in the sky. The actions of angels are most of the time silent, subtle, and incredibly precise. It's not about spectacle, it's about direction. And often, this direction comes in the most unexpected form, an uncomfortable feeling in your chest, a dream that repeats itself, a strong intuition that you can't explain, but that, if ignored, something is lost. Angels don't need words. They operate on a frequency that doesn't pass through the ears, but through the heart. They don't speak in clear sentences, but with internal movements, the ones that make you stop, look again, rethink a path. And if you've ever had that inexplicable feeling of not going somewhere and then discovered that something serious happened there, or if you suddenly felt the urge to call someone and they told you they were going through a difficult time, know this. This is not a coincidence. This is intervention. It's funny how deep down we've all felt this, but most people ignore it. They prefer to call it all in our heads, paranoia, nonsense. But it's not. There is a hidden truth in this silent communication that needs to be taken seriously, because it comes precisely to protect, guide, redirect. And if there's one thing that angels do masterfully, it's this: guide without you realizing that you're being guided. They're not worried about being seen, they're worried about accomplishing their mission. And often that mission is simple: to make you not get into that car, or to make you look to the side at the exact moment someone needed help. Sometimes it's just putting someone in your path. A person you barely know, but who says something that wakes you up, who makes you think differently, who saves you without knowing it. And that's where something powerful comes in. Angels can use people too. A stranger who crosses your path, gives you advice and never shows up again. A doctor who insists on a test that others ignored. A child who looks at you in a way that disarms you. A beggar who calls you by name. These are not made up. These are real stories. These are the behind-the-scenes details of life acting with millimeter precision. And you only notice them if you pay attention. Lara, for example, didn't immediately realize that what had saved her was more than a warning in a dream. She thought it was just a coincidence, but as the days went by, other little things started happening, and that's when she started to connect the dots. A feeling that she wasn't alone, an inexplicable urge to change course, a voice that seemed to come from within, but clearly wasn't hers. And it all always started the same way, with a sense of unease. That's the key word. Because the touch of an angel rarely brings immediate comfort. Most of the time, it disturbs. It takes you out of your comfort zone. It shakes up your certainties. It changes your routines. And you only understand after you've obeyed. Because the well-being that angels bring is not that of the moment. It is that of the consequence. First they warn. Then when you listen, everything falls into place. But the problem is that many people wait for a supernatural manifestation to believe. They wait for lights, audible voices, explicit miracles. And while they wait for something grand, they ignore the details. But angels live in the details. They don't come to prove their existence, they come to save you from your own distraction. You know that feeling of, I knew this was going to happen? Or that feeling you ignored and later regretted? That's exactly where the angels were, trying to touch you, trying to show you that the invisible is also real, that there is a protection system in action. But it only works when you cooperate, when you listen, when you respect the whispers. And it's not about religion, it's about sensitivity. Angels don't have a nameplate. They don't just appear to those who believe, they appear to those who need them. But they remain invisible to those who aren't willing to look deeper. It's as if their presence is conditioned by our willingness to listen with our hearts and not our ears. And what's more, they are not just around you. They are also within you, in the decisions you feel but cannot explain, in the courage that arises from nowhere, in the peace that arrives in the midst of chaos. Angels are not just beings by our side. They are also states that take hold of us, that strengthen us, that guide us from within. So when you have that strange feeling, that subtle discomfort, that restlessness that keeps you awake at night, pay attention. It may not be anxiety, it may not be paranoia, it may be an angel trying to warn you. And when the angels touch, something changes. Even if everything remains the same on the outside, something inside shifts, something adjusts. They are not concerned with being recognized. They are concerned with fulfilling the role they were given. And if you look back, you will probably realize that they have been there more times than you can imagine. The day you narrowly escaped, the moment you gave up on something without knowing why, that encounter that changed your life, that was not a coincidence. That was intervention. Write it down. I'm on this journey too, because if there is one thing that makes all this even more tangible, it is when we move away from theory and delve into real stories, the kind that seem like a movie script, but happen to ordinary people like you and me, people who at some point were touched by something they couldn't explain. And this touch, whether in the form of a dream, a premonition, or simple discomfort, ended up saving lives, diverting paths, avoiding irreparable losses. When we hear stories like this, it starts to sink in. These signs are not symbolic, they are concrete, and they carry an impact that can only be understood when you experience something similar. Julia's story, for example, has never left my mind. She was a simple woman, mother of 2 small children, who followed the same routine every day. She woke up at 5, got the kids ready, and took the 6:20 a.m. bus to work. Nothing out of the ordinary, except for one detail. For 3 nights in a row she had exactly the same dream. In the dream she got off the bus as usual, but was hit by a car that was speeding by. She woke up in a cold sweat with her heart racing. The first time she ignored it. The second time she felt uncomfortable. The third time she decided to change her route. She took a later bus, even though she knew that this would make her late. And that was the day it all happened. The 6:20 a.m. bus actually stopped at the stop, where she usually got off, and a car, speeding, ran onto the sidewalk. The tragedy was reported in the local newspapers. 1 person died. Others were seriously injured. Julia was only not there because something inside her screamed louder than logic, something that seemed absurd to reason, but clear to the heart. And it is precisely at this point that the most powerful mystery of the human journey lies. Sometimes what saves you is what no one sees, and what only you feel. Carlos also experienced something similar, but in an even more direct way. He was all set for a long bus trip. It was a trip with friends to the countryside, planned for months, everything paid for, bags packed, and he was all excited. But that morning, something woke him up. A voice. It wasn't a scream, it wasn't a whisper. It was something between the two of them, clear, repetitive, firm. Don't go. He sat up in bed, sweating. He tried to ignore it, thinking it was stress. But the voice continued. He turned off the alarm, and didn't go. His friends insisted, sent messages, and he felt ashamed. But he stayed. Hours later, he saw the news. The bus had overturned on a dangerous bend in the mountains. Several people were injured. One of his friends was in serious condition. And Carlos understood without a doubt that what he had heard was not his imagination. It was an intervention. It was a warning. It was deliverance, and the most powerful thing. He almost didn't hear it. He could have ignored it for another 5 minutes. He could have followed the plan. He could have let the fear of appearing weak take over. But he didn't let it. These stories reveal a hidden truth that many people avoid facing. There are forces all around us trying to help us, but they cannot force us. They only show us. They suggest us. They whisper us. And it is up to us, with our freedom of choice, to decide whether we will trust them. Because most of the time the signs do not come with an explanation. They ask for faith. Faith in the invisible. Faith in the uncomfortable. Faith in that which seems meaningless but pulsates as truth. And the most curious thing is that these interventions do not choose a day or time. They do not ask for permission. They arrive when they need to arrive, and most of the time, they arrive when you are about to do something that could cost you dearly. A contract that seems too advantageous. A trip that is filled with tension. A meeting marked by the instinct to flee. At these times, something stops, something calls, something screams silently. And that is when the sensitivity to realize that this is not just fear comes in. It is protection. Some say this is just a coincidence. But those who have experienced it know. It's not about superstition. It's about connection. It's about being in tune with what's beyond your eyes, and understanding that sometimes the delay that irritates you is the exact time for deliverance, that the object that falls on the floor and makes you take a few steps back could be taking you away from something worse, that the wrong number you dial prevents you from making the call that would change the course of a wrong decision. These are the small revolutions that happen behind the scenes of life, and when we look closely, we realize that there are hundreds of stories like this all around us. People who stopped for one more second, who listened to someone say no, who left early for no clear reason, who responded to an uncomfortable feeling and because of that are alive, or still have their family intact, or didn't fall for a scam, or avoided a mistake that would change everything forever. These stories are not meant to impress. They are meant to remind you. To remind you that the invisible world is as real as the visible one, that angels operate with precision even when it seems like nothing is happening, that the impact of a decision guided by true intuition can be incalculable. Because it's not just about avoiding death, but about keeping your life moving toward what makes sense, what has purpose, what will truly transform you. And at this point, it is important to understand that angels do not only act in great tragedies. Sometimes they prevent small pains that could grow. They free you from the wrong people, from paths that were not yours, from businesses that seemed incredible but were full of traps. And the warning comes from that same place, the premonition, the repetitive dream, the soft voice, the restlessness, always subtle, always clear, always saving. Comment here. That makes sense to me. And when we start to notice these signs, life changes. You no longer go on autopilot. You start to notice details that you previously ignored, to respect that sudden pause, that butterflies in your stomach that arrive without explanation, but always come with an intention. It's as if something inside you says, pay attention, this is important. And this type of perception does not come from outside. It is cultivated with awareness, with listening, with openness to see beyond what the eyes show. If it makes sense to you, take a look at the material I left below. Reading your birth angel. It is something I prepared very carefully, thinking precisely about those who feel that there is something greater guiding their steps, but still do not know how to connect with it clearly. This reading helps you access more personalized guidance, coming directly from the angelic kingdom, to support you in the transformations that are happening or about to happen in your life. This content may be taken offline at any time, so if it's useful to you, take advantage of it while it's still available. It's here in the description, but I may take it offline in the next few days because it's something very specific, made for those who really feel called to it. And the most interesting thing is that it complements everything we're talking about, here in a practical and direct way. It can save you a lot of time and avoid hasty decisions that seemed right, but weren't for you. Now I want to continue even deeper on this path. And then, when you start connecting the dots and paying attention to these signs that previously seemed like mere coincidences, everything changes. It's like a veil is lifted. Things that previously went unnoticed take on a new weight, a new presence. And it's not about paranoia, it's about perception, about learning to listen with your heart and see with your soul. Because the truth is, when something from the spiritual realm wants to warn you or guide you, it won't show up with fanfare. It will whisper. But that whisper, when you learn to recognize it, has the power to prevent falls, redirect destinies, and calm storms. Have you ever noticed how certain dreams seem more vivid than reality? Dreams that come back night after night, with strong symbols, strange messages, but that leave a feeling that is impossible to ignore. They do not come by chance. When these dreams repeat themselves with intensity, it is the universe asking for attention. It could be a call, a warning, or even a map to get out of a situation before it collapses. Many times, it is the angels themselves trying to communicate, because while the mind sleeps, the spirit hears more clearly. Another sign that should not be underestimated is that feeling of urgency that appears out of nowhere. You are calm and suddenly you feel as if you have to do something or avoid something urgently without understanding why. It is as if something is pulling you from within. There is no rational explanation, but your body feels it. And most of the time, this is not anxiety or common nervousness. It is intervention. It is a subtle movement of the invisible, trying to protect you from something that is still forming on the material plane, but that already exists spiritually. And what about that inner voice? Not the mind chatter that distracts us all the time, but that specific, calm, steady voice that comes out of nowhere and speaks clearly. You know exactly what it's saying. It's not a thought, it's an instruction. As if someone inside is saying, go this way. This voice usually appears at key moments, important decisions, uncertain paths. And if you listen carefully, you will notice that it never shouts, but it also never keeps quiet. And the most curious thing? It is always right. Sometimes the sign comes as a presence, and this is perhaps the most difficult to explain in words. It is that moment when you wake up with a peace that does not match the chaos around you. It is as if someone is there sitting next to you, just watching, caring, surrounding you with something that you cannot touch, but feel with every part of your body. This gentle, comforting presence, which arrives in the most fragile moments, is usually a direct sign. When you wake up and feel that something beyond the physical was there, it is because it really was. And then there are the unexpected events in life. That seemingly unexplained change of plans. You were going to go out, but you missed the appointment. You were going to meet someone, but they cancelled. You were going to go on a trip, but something stopped you. Sometimes frustration comes first, but later you realize that it saved you from something worse. Life reconfigures its paths when necessary, and angels often act exactly in this background, changing small pieces on the board to avoid major collapses later on. Now, the most powerful point is when these signs combine. When in the same period you start to dream frequently, feel unexplained urgency, hear that inner voice more clearly, wake up with that protective presence and see your plans change in an almost forced way. At that moment, you are not faced with coincidences. You are faced with a clear message, and the wisest thing to do is to stop and listen. Don't fight against the flow, because that could be exactly what is saving you from a path that was not yours. There is a hidden truth here. Many people expect the answer to come with noise, light, and grandeur. But real spirituality doesn't act like that. It moves in silence, it touches you between the lines, in the details, in the intuition that insists, in the delay that protects, in the absence that liberates. And if you are not present within yourself, attentive to your journey, you will think that everything is a coincidence. But it is not. It never was. The hurried mind almost always ignores these subtle invitations, but those who learn to listen to the invisible develop a new mentality. They start to make different decisions. They move more wisely. They avoid battles that they don't need to fight, because they know that there is something bigger acting around them, even when everything seems stagnant. And that is what transforms the journey. Knowing that you are not alone, and that there are discreet but extremely present forces guiding you with precision. Now, I want to go even deeper into this subject, because there is a specific moment when the spiritual world moves with greater force and almost no one notices it. This moment usually happens in situations that seem purely human, but hide something much greater behind it. And that is where the key lies that few people see. Comment here. That makes sense to me. And the curious thing is that these signs have never stopped happening. They are all around us all the time. But the truth is that most people simply don't notice them. Not because they lack spiritual capacity or sensitivity, but because we live immersed in a rhythm that robs us of presence. The mind races, the body gets tired, the eyes close to what is invisible, and the heart becomes numb to what really matters. We get so used to the noise, the notifications, the endless obligations, that the whispers from heaven get lost in the confusion. And the saddest thing is that many times these whispers are exactly what could change everything. Spirituality doesn't shout. It comes like a breeze, and to feel a breeze, you need to be silent. You need to stop, breathe, be there, whole. But how many times a day do we really allow ourselves this state of presence? Most of us are always in motion, physically, mentally, emotionally. It's like trying to see the moon's reflection in a choppy lake. The image is there, but the surface needs to be calm for it to appear. Many people wait for a spectacular sign, a grand revelation, a supernatural event that will clear up all doubts. But the greatest spiritual encounters are rarely like that. They happen behind the scenes, in a detail, in a word that someone says without knowing why, in a delay that changes the course of the day, in a song that plays exactly when you need to hear it. And that is the most beautiful thing, and also the most challenging, because it requires sensitivity, attention, understanding that the invisible does not act with the noise of logic, but with the subtlety of intuition. There is a hidden truth in all this. The spiritual world has never stopped communicating. It is we who often stop listening, not out of malice, but out of distraction, out of an excess of rationality, out of fear of seeming strange by trusting too much in something that cannot be explained. But when you decide to make room, even if it is just a small space, to listen to what has no voice, something changes. Life begins to talk to you, and this is no exaggeration. Answers appear in places you had not even noticed before. Your intuition grows stronger, coincidences increase, and you begin to understand that there is no such thing as chance. There is only alignment. The impact this has on your journey is profound, because when you realize that you are not alone, that there are signals being sent all the time, your Mindset changes. You stop acting on impulse and start making choices with more awareness. You start filtering what enters your energy field. You stop accepting anything as normal and start seeing what is behind events. Every obstacle starts to have a purpose. Every delay, a lesson. Every discomfort, an invitation to look within. But here's an important point. Not everyone will understand this movement. And that's okay. Spiritual awakening is personal. It doesn't happen en masse nor at the same time for everyone. Each person has their own time. What you can do, and perhaps you should, is allow yourself to live this process with honesty. With truth, with the courage to stop in the middle of the chaos and ask, what am I not hearing that is already being said? Sometimes that's all heaven expects of you. A sincere pause. A genuine willingness to listen. There is a powerful revelation that is not often spoken. The strongest signs often come wrapped in simplicity. They do not impress the eyes, but they touch the spirit deeply. And when you begin to notice them, you also begin to notice a change within yourself. You feel lighter, even in the midst of challenges. You feel a constant presence even in moments of solitude. You feel that there is something or someone guiding you, even when everything seems uncertain, and that changes the way you walk. Because knowing that you're being guided doesn't mean that your problems go away. It means that you know how to get through them. It means that you trust the journey, even when you don't understand the path. It means that you start to align your decisions with something bigger. You stop getting lost in the surface and start diving into what really matters. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject, because there is a spiritual reason behind this collective distraction we are experiencing, and understanding it can open your eyes in ways you may never have experienced before. Write in the comments, I'm on this journey too, because understanding how to develop this spiritual sensitivity is essential to transforming your relationship with signs and with what comes from the invisible. Often, when we talk about spirituality, people imagine something distant, too mystical, almost inaccessible. But the truth is that spirituality works more like an antenna, an instrument that you can adjust, tune in, and improve. It is not a matter of luck or special gifts. It is a practice, an attitude, a way of being in the world that can be learned and cultivated. Starting to develop this sensitivity requires something simple but powerful: cultivating inner silence. Amidst the rush and constant noise that surrounds us, taking a moment to silence our mind and heart is already a huge step. This can happen through meditation, prayer, or simply being in silence, paying attention to our breathing. It is like creating a space where the mind no longer needs to chase worries or distractions, but can open itself to perceive what is beyond the obvious. This silence creates the ideal conditions for subtle messages, the whispers from heaven, to reach you more clearly. Another practical tool that can be very helpful is keeping a dream notebook. Dreams are direct channels to our subconscious mind and often to the spiritual dimensions that surround us. They bring symbols, sensations, images, and messages that our conscious mind cannot always grasp. Writing down these dreams when we wake up, even those that seem confusing or nonsensical, is a way to start recording and deciphering these communications. Over time, you will notice patterns, repetitions, and themes that connect with your waking life, and this strengthens your perception of what is deeper. But developing spiritual sensitivity is not just a matter of observing external things, such as signs and dreams. It is also essential to pay attention to what you feel, not just what you think. Intuition does not speak the language of logical reasoning. It comes as a sensation, a silent certainty, an internal tug that does not need arguments to be true. Therefore, training yourself to listen to your body, your emotions, and your heart is essential. Often, the answer to important decisions or to understanding what is happening in your life appears first as a sensation. Ignoring this is losing a valuable channel of connection with what is beyond matter. A simple practice that makes all the difference is to ask for protection and discernment before going to sleep. This attitude is an invitation to spiritual wisdom, so that during your rest you are protected and open to the purest messages, away from noise and interference that can confuse or distract your attention. It is a way of aligning your mind and spirit with a higher frequency, paving the way for revelations and answers to come naturally and spontaneously, without effort or anxiety. Developing this sensitivity has a direct impact on your mindset and your decisions. When you learn to tune in to this internal antenna, your journey begins to take on another dimension. Choices that once seemed complicated begin to unfold with more clarity. Because you are in contact with guidance that goes beyond the obvious, you stop acting on autopilot, dominated by the urgencies of everyday life, and begin to make decisions with greater awareness and alignment with your true purpose. Transformation does not happen overnight, but is a continuous movement that grows silently, behind the scenes of your life. And the hidden truth is that this attunement doesn't just change what you perceive, it changes who you are. You begin to recognize yourself as someone who is connected to something bigger, who has a story that goes far beyond the daily routine. This has a profound impact on the way you deal with challenges, emotions, and even relationships. You begin to see each situation as an opportunity for learning and growth, and no longer as a burden or a problem to be avoided. This process is a journey, an inner adventure that reveals surprising insights about yourself and the world. Often, the greatest discoveries happen when we least expect them, in simple details, in coincidences, in the sensations that arise when we are more attentive. Developing this sensitivity is like opening a window to the backstage of your own existence, where the hidden truth begins to reveal itself, revealing a much richer and more possible itinerary than you could have imagined. Now, with this foundation, you're beginning to understand that spirituality is not an unattainable mystery, but an invitation to live with greater presence, awareness, and alignment. And this adjustment of your internal antenna is a daily exercise that, when done with patience and sincerity, profoundly transforms your way of seeing the world and yourself. Comment there. That makes sense to me. What about you? Have you ever stopped to think about how many times you've had a strange dream that seemed more than just a reflection of your everyday life? Maybe it was an intense dream, full of symbols, or even a nightmare that, despite causing uneasiness, left a strange feeling of alert or protection. Who has never felt that at that moment there was something bigger trying to communicate, but the rational mind tried to ignore or justify it, or that feeling, difficult to explain, that someone was by your side to save you or support you, even if you don't know exactly who or what it was? These experiences are not as rare as they seem, and the truth is that they connect thousands of people on the same journey, a journey that is not always talked about, much less understood. It is common for us to feel a mixture of fear, confusion, and even shame when faced with these phenomena. After all, we live in a culture that values what is tangible and measurable and discredits what is beyond the control of reason. Talking openly about these experiences may seem crazy, or may trigger fear of being judged. But the hidden truth behind all this is that these experiences have a profound and real impact on our personal transformation. They are the backstage of a conversation that goes beyond words, where silence and sensations are the protagonists. When you open yourself up to this universe, you begin to realize that you are not alone, that there is an invisible network of emotional connections that crosses time and space, uniting people who share these same perceptions. And this emotional connection with what is invisible is not just a curiosity, but an invitation to revisit your mindset and your decisions. Because when you realize that these signs may be linked to something bigger, to a subtle care that manifests itself in unexpected ways, your view of the world changes. You begin to understand that life is not only made up of what we see, but also of what we feel, intuit, and the energy that moves everything around us. This directly affects the way you face your challenges, your fears, and even your dreams, not only the ones that appear while you sleep, but the deepest desires that we keep inside. This journey, although personal, is also collective. Although it is often kept silent, this invisible exchange of experiences creates a significant social impact. People who find the courage to share their stories, even if discreetly, help others recognize that they are not alone. And this creates a ripple effect, a gradual awakening that breaks through feelings of isolation and insecurity. These are small revelations that open paths to new possibilities, to a deeper understanding of who we are and what the purpose of our experiences is. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject, because understanding this emotional connection is essential for you to realize that your process is not just about receiving signals, but about integrating these messages into your daily life. It is not just about capturing the presence, the warning, or the advice. It is about letting this experience transform your posture, your energy, and of course, your choices. When you recognize that these messages come through emotions and intuition, you begin to value the power of sensitive perception, which can be a true tool for decisions that are more aligned with your path. This is where spirituality, far from being something abstract, gains a practical and impactful dimension in your life. This impact is reflected in the way you deal with what appears in your routine, how you interpret the small signs that previously went unnoticed, and how you build an open mind to what is beyond the immediate. It is a process of internal transformation that will reverberate in all areas, at work, in relationships, in moments of choice. You begin to realize that what seemed like a coincidence is, in fact, a silent choreography, a dance between you and the universe, where each step has meaning and each pause is a chance to find yourself again. Therefore, these experiences are more than just curiosities or isolated stories. They are part of the backstage of your existence, of the revelations that appear when you least expect it, but are ready to receive them. They show that spirituality is a living, pulsating journey, made up of small encounters, whispers and touches that provoke an opening to something greater. And recognizing this is opening the door to a level of consciousness that transforms the way you position yourself in the world, shaping a life richer in meaning and purpose. Comment: I'm on this journey too. When a story touches our hearts, something inside us changes, even if only subtly. This transformation is silent but powerful. It shakes the roots of our mentality, creates new internal connections, and pushes us to see the world with different eyes. It's as if, suddenly, that mystery that once seemed distant and intangible begins to make sense in our daily lives, revealing hidden truths that were there all along waiting to be discovered. The feeling of opening up to these signs, to this spirituality that many consider invisible, can trigger an internal journey that goes far beyond what we imagine. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject, because this connection with the invisible is not a simple coincidence, but an invitation for real change, an impact that alters the way we make decisions, how we perceive our own feelings, and how we interact with the world around us. When we begin to perceive the behind the scenes of our existence, the details that go unnoticed in our hectic routine, we make room for a truth that transcends common logic and manifests itself in intuition, sensitivity, and even in the way we relate to others. This awakening does not happen overnight, nor is it the result of a single event, but of a series of small revelations that, together, build a new outlook on life. These revelations are like signs along the way, messages that, when interpreted with care and openness, help guide our journey, offering direction when we feel lost. Spirituality, in this sense, acts as an antenna that tunes into frequencies that we usually ignore, those frequencies that speak directly to the heart and soul. And the most incredible thing is that this tuning can be cultivated, adjusted like an instrument, so that we become increasingly receptive to what the universe has to say to us. It is a process of continuous transformation, which requires patience, dedication, and the courage to surrender to the unknown. With this new mindset, decisions that previously seemed difficult or confusing gain a different clarity as they are now made based on a broader perception that includes not only reason, but also intuition and feelings. This integration between mind and heart is one of the great secrets to living more fully and aligned with our purpose. Furthermore, this openness to spirituality has a direct impact on relationships. As we begin to connect with others in a deeper, more empathetic and true way, understanding that we all carry stories and signs that deserve to be respected and welcomed. This journey is a true inner adventure, full of discoveries and moments of reflection, where what seemed hidden is gradually revealed in the details of everyday life. When we stop to observe carefully, we realize that the world is not just a physical and material space, but a stage where invisible stories unfold, energies that influence our emotions, thoughts, and even the direction our lives take. With each step, we are invited to delve deeper into this reality, understanding that everything is connected and that the hidden truth is waiting to be unveiled by those who have open eyes and hearts. And it is precisely this awareness that can transform not only your life, but also the impact you have on the world around you. Because when we connect with this more subtle dimension, we begin to act more consciously, more aligned with our values and the true essence of who we are. This changes everything. The way we face challenges, the way we take care of ourselves and the people we love, and the way we contribute to something greater. This transformation is the natural result of those who decide to listen, feel, and respond to the signs that life sends, even if they come disguised as strange dreams, sudden intuitions, or unexpected encounters. So, when you feel that a story, a message, or even a simple conversation resonated with you in a special way, know that it is no coincidence. It is the universe working behind the scenes, making small revelations that can open doors to a new chapter in your journey. The secret is not to ignore these messages, not to let the rush and distractions drown out the call of your own soul. After all, each sign that arrives is an opportunity to grow, to change your mindset, and to make decisions that will reverberate throughout your life. And now, more than ever, it is time to make room for this attunement, to adjust your internal antenna to capture the frequencies that really matter. For it is in this attunement that true transformation happens, in the encounter between what we feel and what we choose to live. Each small sign can be an invitation to a deeper journey, to a greater connection with yourself and with everything that is beyond the visible. Comment there. That makes sense to me. If you've made it this far, it's because this conversation really touched something inside you, right? It's exactly this type of content which brings clarity and depth that we want to build together here. A space to explore these truths that aren't always easy to see, but that make all the difference in our journey. So if it makes sense to you, feel free to subscribe to the channel and continue this journey with me. Oh, and leave a phrase in the comments that says you're with me until the end, like, "I'm with you until the end," or "This message was for me." I love knowing who is on the same page, sharing this journey. And of course, if this video sparked something, that like is a simple way to acknowledge the connection we've created, showing that these reflections really reach you. No pressure, just a light and genuine exchange between the producer and the viewer. There is a video here that complements this subject in a way that will deepen this perspective even further. Click and stay with me there, because the journey is just beginning, and there are many good things coming for those who want to go further.